What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and in this video I thought I would showcase this book here, House of Secrets number 103, Amazing Bernie Wrightson Bronze Age horror book. And so you can see here, this one is, it's got this, this cool image of this guy where it's mostly black. And that's one reason why this book is very, very difficult to get in nice condition. And you can see just kind of from the general appearance of this book here, this is a pretty high-grade copy of this book. Now, this is one that I am planning at some point to send in to CGC to get graded. And so I thought in this video I would go over kind of how I evaluated the potential grade for this book. So right off the bat, I'll tell you, I think that this one has a shot at a 9.0. That's where I think this one has the potential to grade. And I'm going to go over kind of the major flaws on it and talk about why I think it's the grade that it is. And remember, we're going to be looking close at this, so maybe some flaws are going to look bigger than they actually are. Now, the biggest flaws, or I'll say flaws on the book, are down in the lower right corner. There's a small little crease on the corner. It's about 1/4 of an inch, and then a very, very light vertical crease here that is about 1/2 an inch. And so with those two, that's why I think it's going to be approximately a 9.0, and we're going to go over everything else, because I think those are the limiting flaws for the book. With those creases, I don't think it can get above a 9. I mean, it's always possible because that vertical crease is really light that you could get something like a 9.2, but I think that that's going to be the limiting set of flaws on this book. And so we're going to pick this one up and take a close look at it. And so you can see those creases a little bit clearer now that they're all up close. So you see this, you've got the corner crease right there, and then that very light vertical crease above it. But then we're going to go along this edge here. So you can see otherwise that edge is extremely nice on this book. We have a little wear in the upper corner and just a tiny little bit of wear there. But that's not really a flaw that I'm all that concerned about given the size of the other flaws on this book. Now we're going to go along the spine, and this is where having a bright light like I have above me really helps showcase what those flaws are. It's helpful to look at these books under a bright light. It really does show you where some of those flaws are that you might not otherwise be able to see. So there's a little bit of corner blunting. You've got one spine tick at the top of this staple here. Then it's you got to almost like check these to see if their spine ticks are part of the art, but there's one spine tick here. This is part of the art here. There's another, another spine tick. Another spine tick. And this, I believe, is actually part of the art. This one right here. I think that, that's the spine tick. But that, I believe, is part of the art. And we keep going down. Very, very small tick and some blunting. So along the spine, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you were just looking at the spine, you would think this book could be upwards of a 9.4. We look at the top edge. We have this one tiny, tiny flaw here. So say that's like 7, maybe a tiny bit of corner blunting here, 8. So to me, like the overall general number of flaws on the book is you've got approximately 8 very, very small flaws, like individual ones where you would take off 0.1 per flaw. And then you have this limiting flaw down in the corner. And so this limiting flaw to me puts it as probably a 9.0 at the top end. And then when you, maybe a 9.2, but then when you add in everything else here, that would put it at the top end if it was just those at like a 9.2. To me, that brings this to a 9.0, possibly an 8.5 on the low end. I would be pretty surprised if this book got below an 8.5. I do think that it's a pretty solid 8.5, even I would say a pretty solid 9.0. The big question to me is that very light vertical crease on the edge. Now also remember, it's not just the front cover that matters for these books. We also have the interior, and I'm not going to open it fully, but you can see the pages are very nice on this copy. Now it's nice pages. It's not like they're all tanned or anything like that. It's also very nice on the interior of the cover. You don't see any tanning. And with a dark cover like this, the other thing you really do need to make sure you check is to look on the interior of the front cover for any bleed through. I didn't see anything. Doesn't mean there's maybe something there that I missed, but you look for bleed through because this is the type of book that somebody's going to try to touch up, do color touch. Now, the fact that you can very clearly see, some of these spine ticks, these little creases, it's pretty unlikely that there's going to be color touch on it because they probably would have fixed those up as well. The other thing that is really helpful to try to identify any type of modification that's been done to the book is using a really bright light like this and look for something that reflects differently on the cover. And you don't see anything like that on here, or at least I didn't. And so that's one way to also, look for any flaws. Now, this is a book that I would get pressed. There are a couple, small little things that you can just, press out to make it look as good as possible when it goes in. We also need to look at the back cover. The back cover here, you can see, is also extremely clean. There's nothing notable on the back cover that's going to knock the grade down any further. I would actually say the back cover is cleaner than the front cover. So there's nothing limiting for this book on the back cover. And because this is a white back cover, again, using kind of like lighting and, trying to get the angle and some reflections and see if you can pick up any flaws is one of the best ways, to do it. But really nothing that jumps out. Like, again, a few little things that are like indentations on the back, but that's why you get the book pressed first, so that those I don't even have to really consider those with respect to flaws for this book for grading. But then let's talk about, the values of this book and why I think that this one is worthwhile to get graded. So this book, once you start getting up into the very fine range, it generally becomes a book that is probably worthwhile to get graded. It all depends what you spent on it. But there was a sale of a 7.0 for $195 in September of last year. Then there was a 7.5 for $92. And so there's some where if something gets auctioned versus fixed price, you can see some variation. Then there was a 8.5 that went for $300, a 9.0 that went for $227, a 9.2 that went for $432. And so I think this book is probably somewhere in the $200 to $400 range. I think it's probably closer to the $300 to $400 range, given that I think it's a very solid 8.5, probably has a very good chance at a 9.0. And so because this book I picked up for $50, I felt like I got a very good deal on this book. This is one I was, again, digging through a box at a vendor. And I always, I'm looking for covers that I recognize, covers that I know. And I saw this one. And when I took a look at it outside of the bag and board, I was like, this is a very clean copy of this book. Looks like it's probably worth getting graded. I was able to pick it up for $50, which I felt like was an absolute steal. And so then when you look at the costs of grading and pressing and everything, probably around another $55 or so. And then if that book is now worth $300, potentially $400, with a total input of about $100, $110, it's really worth it. That's a case where it's really worth it. Whereas if, say, I had bought this raw and I paid $200 or $250, probably not worth it. And so that's just kind of the things you need to look at, in my opinion, with this, because with a book like this, a high grade book, someone is going to want to have that confirmation that the book is actually the grade that I think it probably is. Because, hey, there could be something I missed, there could be some color touch, there could be something else that, I didn't catch. But to me, I think this book looks like a solid 8.5, decent chance at a 9.0, puts it at that $300 to $400 point, and I think is worthwhile to get graded. But what do you think? What do you think the potential grade is on this book? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think of this cover? I mean, this is one of those Bernie Wrightson covers that just always catches my attention. I kind of joke about Bronze Age horror. I think it gets overhyped a little bit too much, but there are certain covers that I think are very, very well done, very appealing in that era. But hopefully you enjoyed this, and I will see you on the next one.